How's it going, everybody? This is Martin Stokes here.
And this is Dean Scurry.
And I am a traveller.
And I am a countryman.
Welcome to A Traveller
And a Countryman podcast.
So episode 32, A Traveller and
A Countryman
podcast.
Gee, we never thought we'd be number one podcast
We're
in Ireland,
now number
did we?
one podcast in Ireland.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
We're probably in Ballymun. As I said last week, we have a guest, and our guest is Lucky. He's very lucky to be on our show.
Yeah, and you're lucky to meet him as well. So, Lucky, go on, tell us a bit about you, who you are, where you're from, and what you do, yeah?
Oh yes. I can start there. My name is Lucky, and surname is Khambule. I originally come from a province called KwaZulu-Natal. It is in South Africa, and my town or city is Durban. And I come from a village. Obviously, I grew up in a village, doing everything with our hands. We grew up in apartheid. Yeah, we learned to resist from our young age. The authority, as you know, in South Africa, we had to stand up for our rights, which we did not have. Yeah, and I came here 10 years ago, actually now. This month, 2013, I came here, and I seek protection when I came here. And I lived in a system called direct provision. I was in Cork most of the time during my stay in direct provision as an international protection applicant. Obviously, what shocked me as I was in this direct provision was the limited rights that I had or did not have.
In your country?
No, here.
Here, sorry, yes. I wanted to find out that.
So here, well, in my country, I mean, we didn't have rights at all as blacks there because of the apartheid system that was going on there, which separated people deliberately and legally to be placed in certain pockets of the country. And where my area was Transkei, where the government felt that in order to not worry them, let us give them a little freedom, a semi-freedom, to say that, okay, we give you this as your country, within the country. So we were separated in that way, in according to ethnicity. There would be vendors, there would be Tswanes, there will be Zulus, there will be Xhosas. So in those provinces, they are made now countries. They call it Bantustans. That way, the whites had control of what happens in those little countries. So we had to have our own kind of passports because we are not allowed to be in South Africa. While we are in South Africa, we are not allowed to be in a land that is outside where they said we need to be. Okay, so we had to have passports in order to go. If you were to go, for instance,
So basically,
to Joburg.
it was like having a fence around you, is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
exactly.
Right, yes.
I've
There's a fence
been
around
to
it.
South Africa about 10 times, and I never got clearer or more succinct description of what happened. I didn't know that was specifically what happened. And
Yeah.
I'm quite open, and I chat and I talk to people,
Yeah.
especially black people, when I'm
Yeah.
in South Africa. And I didn't know that they had these Bantustans.
Bantustans, yeah. With the rights, then, when you were to go, for instance, if I can put it from the Irish point of view, would say that if you are in County Mayo, for instance, Mayo will be a country, so there will be borders there. That if you were to come from Mayo, coming to Dublin, Dublin will be now Ireland. So you need a passport to come from Mayo to Dublin, which is Ireland. So with us as well, if you are in Transkei, you want to go to KwaZulu, for instance, which is in Durban. So you needed to have a passport now to get there.
If you're black, not if you're white.
Yeah, no, not for whites. These were made specifically for blacks because these areas that they selected were black-dominated areas. So it was easy for them what they did cleverly was identify prominent local leaders who would lead tribally this country. And they did a great job to choose the leaders that would be pro the whites obviously the central government, which is South Africa, is the budget comes 80% from the central. So the person that is put to lead is taking the orders from Pretoria,
The center of government power.
Center of power. So they were made to think that they were strong, they were powerful, they were leading a country, which is not. I mean, no one knows anything about Ciskei, anything about Transkei, anything about Venda, Bophuthatswana, which were the countries that were formed to separate us so that they can control better. Then they changed this education system to lower the standards of education that will be provided in these so-called countries, so that when the level of education is reduced to what they want you to reach, they're winning the battle. Okay, but it was all about the resistance of the people that then, the likes of Nelson Mandela, Steve Biko in his time, Walter Sisulu, and all of those that fought the regime change for many, many years until some died, some were locked away for raising this awareness, for raising to say that let us rule together, because the white government was predominantly white, and when they formed this country, one of the things that they did was, in South Africa, whites only were allowed to vote. When the rules came out was that even if you are white, you are in South Africa, you were not allowed to vote in these so-called countries that they developed. So because you have a right to vote in South Africa, so you don't have to go and vote in those provinces. There was what they called Group Areas Act that legally removed people from the towns that they historically owned land at, so that they moved to a less developed part, and they took the land that they felt is useful to them and removed people with no notice, with no nothing, just remove them and dump them in some useless land. The way that they would treat people who are black, with the police force, with the Justice Department, it was just their way or no way. Growing up, going to school, it was all that. I mean, remember the uprising of 1976 when the students got together to say we refuse to be taught in Afrikaans, which is the language of the Boer and the oppressor, and the student in Soweto took it upon themselves to protest against that. A lot of them lost their lives. That changed the mentality of people because they ruled with fear. We had to overcome the fear in order for us to be able to challenge things. Is the fear, because when a person captures you with fear, it captures you properly until you find it within yourself. There's a big fight that happens within an individual for that individual to be able to have the courage to fight those fears and move on and challenge the person who is in front of him or her, even when they've got a weapon. When you have enough of the nonsense that is happening in your life, you say, there's a saying in my language that says, Makhalanga ndidleni, which means, eat me vultures when you had enough. Eat me vultures. Khalanga is a vulture. So when you had enough, you say, even if the vultures come and eat me, I'm going. So that is when you have
it's like you give up, is it?
It's not a give up. I would say it's a change of your liberation, that there is this fear that has been capturing you to be able to move on.
In the end, you're saying that they're literally willing to die because of...
You're willing to die because of the cause.
But it doesn't mean they're giving up.
It's not about giving up. It's about dying for the cause.
Right. Yeah,
but something dies within you, and I think the thing that dies within you is the fear.
The fight.
The fear dies, and something else grows. And I think what those students showed in Soweto, and I was down at that museum and I was in that church and I was in that area in Soweto, and what I got a sense was what grew in them was their humanity and their solidarity in these young people, in these young students.
And is that still happening in your country now? Is it still continuing?
Remember in 1994, okay, firstly in 1990 was the unban of political activities, political parties. That meant that people can be able now to start organizing and mobilizing and talk politically freely and without being jailed for that. So it started from there. And then in 1994, then we voted for the first time, okay, for the government of national unity. So in 1994, which then the ANC won, which is the black majority, okay? So which means then those that were oppressing are now not in power politically. From then up to now, it's still that rule of majority. And a lot of things changed there. The constitution changed. And people were able to live freely politically.
So was this thing just all about, I know there's probably more into it, was all about colour? Was that the main problem?
It was a racist way to put people of colour down deliberately. I mean, I would say you could be working in the same office, but there will be bathrooms or toilets in that same office where blacks were prohibited from entering that bathroom or that kitchen. It's the same.
So basically, it was specific units for different colours, in other words.
If you go to the beach, for instance, there will be on the chairs that says blacks not allowed. So it will say whites only. Those are the things that were so painful that we had to live with. If you happen to be there and you are seen, it's an offense which you can be charged and be jailed for it.
So tell me something then. Who's to blame for this? Is it public or is it government?
Obviously, it's the government. It's not the public. It's the government. Because remember, we're coming from the colony of the Brits there, and then there were Brits there, and there was Dutch colony there, and then in 1948, when now the National Party, which is the Boer side of things, won, and they started ruling their way and putting all these laws that were
the government did.
The government, yeah.
Okay, so is it? So I was saying that it's the government in your country that's actually forcing racism and discrimination.
Yes.
And that's their rules.
That was their rules.
That was their rules.
Yeah.
And that was in their legislation. It was official. It was legal because it was legislated. Racism was legislated for them.
It reminds me of something in the travelling community where we had legislation in 1963 for the assimilation of travellers. I think some of the text is the final solution to the travelling problem. It was in legislation that travellers couldn't do A, B, C and D. And there's so many similarities. It's really, really interesting between what you experienced, the apartheid or the separation or the putting apart of people.
Yeah, that is why when then I come here and I experience direct provision, the first thing that struck me when I experienced direct provision and the proximity of these centers was apartheid.
And that's 10 years ago.
That's 10 years ago when I came here. I likened it to apartheid.
10 years ago when you came here, what did you think of Ireland, basically?
As I said, I came and stayed in Cork there for about 3 years in direct provision. And then I was involved with the community of Cork.
The Irish community.
The Irish community.
And how did you find that?
Very welcoming.
Good.
Very supportive. I can make an example of a time when in 2014, just a year after being here, we had a lockout in our center, which we had a protest and took over the center there, the direct provision center, as residents to complain about the issues that we were facing at that time. We locked the center for 10 days which means there were no services and no staff. Nobody brings anything in the center, but we were in the center. On day one, when we announced about the fact that we are now on strike, the response from the whole community of Cork would come and bring food to us. We were about 250 people who were there, including children. The community of Cork showed what solidarity was about. We were fed each and every day and night on those 10 days.
Brilliant.
By the people that would come and bring stuff or take us to the shop and buy ingredients, and the women in the center were cooking for everybody in our own time, in our own way. So we did not have anybody to tell us this is now the meal time and all that. We would have meals at our own time, would invite people to come, invite journalists to come to have a look into what is happening about direct provision.
And this came from the Irish public, basically the community itself.
Yeah, that came from
which was very good. It was brilliant, wasn't it?
It was. I remember there were sisters from a church there that drove and came to us, and even they already prepared a letter to congratulate us on the way that we were handling the protest, that we were peaceful about it, and supporting what we were doing at that time, because we would go on radio to explain what is it that was happening. We had demands that we wrote down there. And to me, that showed me what Ireland was about. We're still in contact with some of the people that were there in that protest. Even this evening, when I was in town in a protest, one of the lads that was very supportive bumped into him there. We had a chat with him.
And he was from Cork.
He was from Cork.
Very good.
He came from Cork, and he's a brilliant solidarity guy, Joe Moore. He was there. So my vision about Ireland is that of welcoming. Not in a single time that we had a pushback of why are you here. Since then, we formed our group, which is called the MASI, the Movement of Asylum Seekers in Ireland. That main purpose of that group is formed by refugees and asylum seekers to address the issues that people are facing in direct provision and advocate for change. Change in terms of the legislation that put us down. One of the changes that we have seen in our lifetime was the right to work. It was shocking to me that there are people that are placed in hostels here with nothing to do for many years. When I was there were people who were already 5 years, 6 years, some 10 years.
People seeking refuge or people seeking international protection.
Who were there for many years without a right to work. It's a system that, to me, I saw it as a way to manipulate the mind of the person so that it doesn't see anything wrong with the system, because they tell you that, okay, we're going to give you 3 meals a day. We're going to give you a bed. So don't worry about anything else. You know, you're going to wait until your claim is processed, of which that at that time, the waiting time was over 5 years average of waiting for your papers to be processed by the same government. They did not see anything wrong in terms of frying people there.
It reminds me of the whites in South Africa not seeing anything wrong with the rules and regulations for black people in various parts of South Africa.
Yeah,
you don't get to work, you don't get to vote, you don't do this and this.
Yeah,
you receive less education, just like travellers in this country. You receive almost different education to the people who are not travellers. There's so many comparisons to direct provision, to what's happening to travellers, or what has happened to travellers in the last 50 years in this country, to what was happening in your country. And it feels like it's control. And when Martin was saying, why did they do this? Was it because of colour? I think colour might have been the excuse, but the reason was money and control.
Yeah, it was.
Power.
It was.
Yeah, but why wasn't it happening to all the white people in his country then?
Because the white people are the ones who came from Europe historically and wanted to remove the resources, the minerals, the golds, the diamonds from the ground.
Yeah, exactly. Because South Africa is rich in terms of mineral resources.
It's rich in terms of people as well. The people of South Africa are its greatest asset in my eyes. You know what I mean? Especially the black people of South Africa.
We were made strong by the sufferings that we faced. We could face anything because of that.
Yes.
When your back is pushed against the wall, you got to push back. You have no choice.
That's right.
We know that in Ballymun, we developed, willingly or not, we developed resilience.
Yeah.
And so much so that now we developed community and resilience, and so much so that now you can see in the middle of this kind of culture war or refugee blaming situation, that Ballymun is standing up and saying, hold on a minute. We know what it is to be pushed down, to be alienated, to be villainized, to be to be made look like the baddie. So we're not going to do that to others.
When you talk about that, to me, with the little history that I have about Ireland and the history and the sufferings of yesteryears in this country, it tells me that there are people that are ignorant of the history of this country and don't cherish the peaceful settlement that existed here over 100 years ago now. And it's a shame to those that fought, to those women and men that fought for the liberation of this country, and for people to just tarnish the image of Ireland. And in the name of Ireland, in the name of the people of Ireland, it's something that ignorance need to be wiped from people's heads and teach reality about life.
We used to slag the British off for not having an understanding of the Irish-British relationship over hundreds of years. That, they wouldn't understand about Bloody Sunday or about 1916 or about the famine. They just wasn't taught to them. And what you're suggesting is that it could be similar here in an Irish context for Irish people who just don't understand the Irish story, especially of immigration. Like 95 million Irish people don't live in Ireland because they're immigrants.
You'll find in the Caribbeans, there are Irish origins in the Caribbeans, everywhere in the world.
There are black men with Kerry accents.
Exactly.
In Montserrat.
Yeah. So it's important for us to talk reconciliation, to talk peace, to talk understanding, because we got to create a future for this country, and that future lies with the youth. And if we're not nurturing the youth properly, they will be led astray. We need future lawyers. We need future TDs. We need future senators. So what are we doing as Ballymun community to make sure that we have that child that is aspiring to be a sergeant to stay in school and knowing the history and be part of the community, because the generation go.
We think about it is, we all know that Ballymun is a good community anyway, right?
Yeah.
And there is lots of good people in Ballymun.
Yeah.
But they're probably angry for one reason or another. And the chances are they're angry with the government.
Yeah.
And maybe I can't blame them at times for being angry for certain reasons.
Yeah.
But right now they're probably pointing their anger in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So the question they have to probably ask themselves is, who are we fighting with? Are we fighting with the people that come here, or are we fighting with the government who's literally not helping everybody, let alone one side? So that's where it's possible. That's where the problem could be. It's like they're saying, well, I don't know for sure, but it's like they're saying, look, the governments are not doing anything for us. They won't house us. They won't whatever fix this or fix that or do this or do that, and rightly so. They have the rights to be angry for that. But again, it's just that they might be taking their anger on the wrong side, instead of bringing it directly to the governments?
I'm involved in community here, and I'm involved in sports and activities and school and so on. And there's so much good happening. And yes, we are creating the new future leaders in communities like this. But we also, at exactly the same time, we have a history of trauma, addiction, poverty, and now homelessness.
Yeah.
And we have to get the balance right there.
Yeah.
As a nation, not just as Ballymun. Ballymun is just an example of what
Yeah.
the whole nation is like. But what's interesting is I seen you were at a protest today or a rally or whatever we want to call it. And across the road, there was another rally
Yeah.
at the Shelbourne Hotel.
Yeah.
And it was like people saying, we welcome refugees, and the other side saying, we don't welcome refugees.
Yeah.
But both of them had flags or banners that said Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, out, out, out. Both of them had that.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting moment
Yeah.
for me, because I think what they're doing now is it's maybe not this person on the other side of the road that I'm screaming at. Maybe it's the people behind me in these buildings on 150 grand a year, where both of us should be getting together, that side and this side, to say,
Yeah.
there is the people with the power. So let's bring the fight to where the power is.
You are right. When you fight, you need to know who you are fighting and what you are fighting for, and who has got the power in your fight. The Irish citizens have got the right to vote, both local and national. And a fight in the ballot box is a fight that people need to be able to be channeled to. It's no use to say this one must go, but at the end of the day, when they vote, when there's a year of the vote, people still vote for that same government or party that it's still in power. There has to be an alternative, a clear alternative for politically, in terms of what is it, what is the way forward, what is the way forward, and educate people in that way forward in your manifesto, so that when it comes to the voting, a person is clear that this is the person whose principles I agree with, that I want to vote for. And that is the fight that people can do and use that vote, because here in Ireland, historically, the voting turnout is not as great as it's supposed to be. And that is what needs to be fixed, so that there must be a change in government, and not this kind of marriage kind of government that is made of convenience. Let the people go out and vote, and clearly as to what is it what they want. To direct a fight to vulnerable people that have got no power whatsoever, have no say in where they are or where they are placed. It's a misguided kind of fight, what they are doing in terms of campaigning. Campaigning, you're barking at the wrong tree.
Yeah, but it's an easy tree to bark at. And
Yeah.
it's like the Travellers years ago used to get the blame for everything. So the Travellers would make up a very small percentage of this country. Yeah, and it reminds me of direct provision, because direct provision is a very, very small percentage.
Yeah.
And in direct provision, you have people who do great stuff, who are great mothers and fathers, who are great children,
Yeah.
who have pregnancies, who die, who commit suicide.
Yeah.
You have all of these natural things that you have. And
Yeah.
you've also got people who commit crimes, just like in
Yeah.
the travelling community, just like in the normal population.
Anyway, yeah.
For example, the travelling community is easy going, oh, I seen a fella dumping, he was a traveller. That means all travellers dump now.
Yeah, yeah.
What do we want? Travellers out.
Mm.
And it reminds me of the situation in direct provision as well. There's a possibility that one video of one guy somewhere doing something that we're not quite sure what he done was, but he's in direct provision and he's brown, so we're all going to label them all as that. Yeah. And we've
Yeah.
talked about judging a book by its cover or tarring everybody with the same brush on this podcast over and over and over again. And it's only a small amount of number of people, I think, that do that. But they can be very loud, because hate and fear, as I said on the radio, is like paraffin.
It's sometimes it's strange, because I can make mention of Clondalkin, for instance. Clondalkin has been in existence for more than 15 years. That centre. Ballymun is almost a year of its existence, and we have never had anything whatsoever, anything. And to say suddenly that you are scared of the of of walking around. Your children are scared, women are scared because there's men. There's an anti-man kind of a thing that says men of military age, what are they doing here and all that. Forgetting that the person that comes and seek protection here is a person that was facing persecution from wherever they are coming from. They are already traumatized. They are already scared. So when you are not welcoming them, you are not mentally preparing them to be the community within the community of wherever the area that the person is.
Maybe the people who are, let's say, fighting, if you like, maybe they don't understand that. And again, back to the one thing, maybe they don't even realise who they are fighting with, who they are angry with. But the fact that there's nothing getting done for them, they're not being housed, they're not being looked after the way they should be. It's like saying, look, you're doing everything for this person, but you're doing nothing for me. I live here, I'm here all the time, that kind of stuff. That's the kind of attitude that might be getting used.
You see, the ignorance is the thinking that everything is done.
But it also points out that really and truly, it is the government they're fighting with, really.
Oh yes, no doubt.
This is who they're angry with. No doubt.
Nobody's getting anything in direct provision. Nothing is given to people in direct provision. Remember, people are on 38 euros per week.
And they're changing, I think, something like after 8 weeks, they're not feeding people. They're reducing the amount of food that people have access to. And the food, if you look on the recent RTE report about that church that people were staying in, food is just like a pot of slop.
Yeah.
I remember a couple of years ago in Ballymun, RTE made a documentary about crack cocaine being sold on the streets. Now, crack and coke is being sold everywhere. They just picked Ballymun to show this. They didn't show it in Cabinteely, where there's a load of cocaine being sold as well. They showed in Ballymun in a vulnerable community, and they done this uncovered thing. And those men were of military age, and I didn't see at that point anybody marching down the road about that. You know what I mean? These people were openly involved in drug dealing, which for a community like this is devastating. And I didn't see people from all over the city getting up and protesting and shouting and screaming and banners over that. And I think that that's an interesting conversation to have as a country. Why is it specifically about the situation now? What is it just a perfect storm of everything coming together? We've had COVID and we've had homelessness and housing. We've had the government being found out to be corrupt and greedy all of the time. And then it's an opportunity for people to come in and start to pour fear into people's ears. It's an interesting point where we are as a community, where we're going, where you said where we're going as a country, because we are looking, if you take, Sinn Féin's lead, a political party that has been, quite active in working class communities in the last 20 years. They're saying we're going towards this thing called unity. And it's really, really interesting, where on one side of the road you have people asking for unity, and the other side of the road you have people asking for or shouting for something else. Yeah. Where are we going? And I think as someone like you who had to flee your country and arrived here, you have a lot of experience in what I would consider real persecution to bring and inform and educate and share that in this country.
Unity is a big word, easy to say. And in terms of living it, it's a big challenge for each and everyone. Because you got to be able to remove yourself. You have to be selfless in order for you to be able to accept the other party, the other person. We got to get to that level of acceptance that I am not superior to you. I'm not inferior to you. We got to come to that understanding. When we don't see that this one is above the other, there will never be unity. So we got to have that kind of understanding. When you still see travelers as substandard human beings, and when you see refugees as less of contribution, less of human beings, you won't be able to reach where you want to go in terms of unity. And there's nothing that you can solve without that unity. Unity is the key to each and every solution. But compromise must be there, understanding must be there, and respect, and just be a human being. Human being. As Haile Selassie says, the mentality or the philosophy that holds one race superior and another inferior must be permanently discredited and abandoned. There will always be war.
And you can't fight war with war.
You can't.
You have to fight it with unity, with love. That's what Bob Marley got from Haile Selassie.
Yeah.
So for all those Bob Marley fans out there, go and listen to that song, War, that Haile Selassie spoke of. And Haile Selassie was I, or the King of Kings. He was the King of Ethiopia, which the Rastas took on board.
Yeah.
And he showed them that each man is equal, each woman is equal.
Yeah.
We are equal. And yes, your songs of your nation might be great, but if you sit back and don't sing the song for 1 minute, you might hear the other man on the other side of the fence.
Never kick another man down. Never put another person down. Otherwise, you are not going to be able to achieve anything, whether you are a politician or anyone.
You can achieve fear and hate.
Yeah, fear, obviously.
That's what you can achieve. You can achieve fear and hate and blame and finger pointing and not taking responsibility. You can achieve that all day by putting somebody else down or by not helping somebody else up.
That's right.
Sometimes I think, I'm not having, as a fellow said, a go at the government or the councils here, although it looks like it. I think sometimes if a person is not making a contribution, let's say, to their country in government's eyes, the chances are you're nobody to them, or you're even non-existence in their eyes. And I can tell you that there's a lot of travellers who feel that, and have felt it for years and years on end, and probably still feeling it. The fact that they're looked at in a way where they're just simply, you're nobody, you don't exist here, simple as. And worse again, this is their country, born and reared in Ireland, and still has to face all of that. But I have to say that it very, very, very rarely comes from the public, very rarely comes from the community. It comes from higher ground, is it?
What they will do in years to come is to apologize for the things that they did years ago. Like that is what they will do in years to come about this direct provision. That's what they will do, as they did with the Magdalene laundries. That is what they will do with travelers. But that will be late. They need to show the embrace and equal opportunities for everybody, including the travelers. Not a special treatment, but equal opportunities. If there are no equal opportunities, there won't be any equal education, equal everything. Once you have that, then everybody will be moving in the same direction, because you know that you can go to this office, you can go to this place, you will get the service that you need. But at the moment you know there's no need to go there, because you're not going to be, they might not tell you directly that no, but they will always make you to come back again, and you don't.
Martin knows this one inside out. They'll tell him what he wants to hear, push him out the door, make him feel guilty for coming there in the first place, and then you want to come back and back and back.
So that is the mentality that needs to change, even with the civil servants. When you are there to provide service to people, you need not look into that type of a person, and then you start changing the rules to say, no, because of this, you cannot get that. But the next person that comes after me in the queue with the same problem immediately gets that service. So it needs to be in that way. If you don't have that mentality of equality, unity, you will never achieve anything.
I was explaining this to my niece the other day. Life doesn't happen for you, it happens to you. And you have to get up and get active. And get collective and get voting. And people in working class communities across Ireland are doing that. For example, the protests in Ballymun during the week, but maybe they also need to match that with some information from community leaders or people who had experience in this. Because, as I said before, both sides of that protest earlier on today had Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, out.
Yeah.
Where last week it was refugees, out. It's starting to change. People are starting to listen and starting to get informed and make decisions now based on information rather than fear and hate. So during the week, Martin rang me up and he said, Dean, I want you to listen to something. And he read me something out and it was powerful. It was really, really powerful. So Martin has a lovely piece that he's going to read now. I just want people to sit back and listen to it and just hear the words.
We are one. Hello, good Irish people. I've come here to your isle. I had to flee my country. I'm just here for a while. I ask you to be patient. I ask you to be kind. Please don't close your heart to me or pretend to be blind. To you, I might look different, cause my language or my race. But if we work together, it can be a better place. I don't know why you're angry, please help me understand. If we could sit and talk a while or maybe shake a hand. To me ye are nice people, as all the world can see. If your government has let you down, don't take it out on me. I understand your anger if things don't go your way, but let's just get together and make a better day. I have a home and family and everything was fine, but war destroyed our country, we had to leave it all behind. So please try to bear with me, if only for a while. We might get to know each other or maybe share a smile. I know we might look different by the colour of our skin, but the true fact is we're all the same when we look from within. So thank you, Irish people, for your patience, love and care. I'm glad that we have talked it out and took the time to share. So now the war is over, I'm free to go back home. When I get to see my family, I never more will roam. And now back in my country, I'm sitting all alone. I'm thinking of my Irish friends and welcoming them to my home. So if you think of coming to stay here for a while, my door is always open and I'll greet you with a smile. I love the Irish people. They are great and they are fun. Welcome to my country, 'cause together we are one.
Wow.
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 So yeah, that was something
Brilliant.
somebody asked me to write, so I just put that together and
Brilliant.
That's how
that
it turned
says
out.
everything.
that's how it turned out. So
I love
anyway,
the twist.
That says
I love the
everything.
twist. I'm back home now.
Yeah.
And when you're ready,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
Woo!
I
I
love
get
it.
the shivers when I hear
maybe
that.
that's how it should be, yeah.
It's exactly. I love that. It's brilliant.
Everything we talked about in this podcast, is summed up.
It's summed up there. Yeah.
you know, and I don't have to ask, why did you have to leave your country?
Yeah.
What was it about your country that
Yeah,
you couldn't
yeah,
stay there?
yeah.
It's a question that I almost asked you at the start of this, but sometimes it doesn't even matter why
No, it doesn't.
Lucky had to leave
Yeah.
Durban and
Yeah.
his family and his connections and his community and his history and the
Yeah.
the Colza, the KwaZulu Natal, you know,
Yeah.
your history. You had to leave.
So Lucky, in general, what do you think of Ireland, all in all?
Well, I've been here 10 years, so I made it my home. So I love Ireland. I love the people of Ireland, and which I know they are so welcoming. The fact that I'm here now, in this place, in Ireland you meet new friends. Every time I communicate with Irish people, and they learn from me, and I learn from them. We interchange cultural experiences, and we embrace each other, and that's my take about Ireland. Nothing else.
Brilliant, very good, well said.
Yeah, it's lovely. And I had the privilege of standing in a room in Ballymun the other day with you in an apartment block, probably, that's what you could call it.
Yeah.
But it's now being used as a refugee centre.
Yeah.
And me and you met just at the back of one of the protests. There was a lot of kind of fear and shouting and anger and protesting in Ballymun last week. And I kind of snuck in behind that because I didn't want to bring my big stupid head into a protest where people were getting out and, you know, feeling like they had to protest. And I met you. You invited me into this refugee centre. There was a security guard there. He was asking me, who are you and what are you doing here? So I had to kind of say, look, I work in the community. And I stood in a small corridor about 15 foot long, and there was 4 young black African men there, and they looked quiet. They looked like they didn't know how to express what they were feeling inside, and it looked like what they were feeling inside was confusion. So I went up to them and I put my hands out and I held their hands and I said to them, brother, I'm your brother.
Yeah.
And I said, these people outside, they're my brothers as well. And at the moment, they think that you're the devil, that you're the villain, that you're the baddie.
Yeah.
And you might think that they're the villain and they're the baddie as well. But I know both of you. And you're not. They're not the baddies, you're not the baddies. They're not the people you should be fighting, and you're not the people they should be fighting. But that's not where we're at the moment. At the moment, we're looking at each other going, that person out there or that person in there wants to harm me. And it's a lovely divide and conquer tactic or strategy that people in power use all the time. If I'm fighting with the traveller, or if I'm fighting with the gay man, or if I'm fighting with the woman, I'm not fighting power. I'm not fighting government.
Yeah.
And we're not one. We're divided. It's a lovely strategy to use. And once you see the strategy, then you can pull back a bit and we can all stand side by side saying, whoever, out, out, out.
Yeah.
Politician, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, out, out, out.
Cowards choose soft targets because they know they don't have the power to fight back or the ability to fight back. The moment you are referring to in that center there with those guys, I was with those guys when the protest started, and I could see the fear in them in a room upstairs there. And immediately the protest started, and they started to, please switch the lights, turn down the curtains. I'm watching this movement and the scariness from the guys when this big noise coming from downstairs, and they were peeping with the small in the window to see what's going on. And to me, that fear is what that protest conquers. I mean, brings to people. And when we came down and met you there, I was meeting you for the first time, and that moment when we were together there is the most powerful moment in the history of those guys that were there, because you restored hope to them that it's not all Irish people that have got those chants that you are hearing. There are more like you who only want to express love. That moment was powerful and perfect from those guys who just experienced the fear upstairs. And it would stay with them for the rest of their stay in this country, because somebody came and welcomed them. Because you were looking for me, and the guy says, "Lucky, who's Lucky?" And then the guy says, "No, this guy here is just coming to say just hi to us." And the security was cool enough to allow that to happen. He could have just been saying, no, because they are all also scared. But that moment was just brilliant.
And it's simple. We held hands, we closed eyes, and we took a breath in.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And we stood there together, you know.
So what is it now, Lucky? What is that you actually work at now? What do you do here, basically?
Personally, I work full-time, 9 to 5 work, and I am a volunteer as a co-founder of the group called MASI, the Movement of Asylum Seekers, which advocates for the rights of asylum seekers, perpetrate peace and changes and the lives of the people. We are just hope to people that are new in the country, people that are still seeking for their stay in this country. So we provide as much information as we can for them to know what is it that they need to do for their cases. We sort a lot of problems. We listen to the problems that people have and just connect people with communities. We want to build communities because of the understanding of where these centers are isolated. So we try by all means to build communities so that people know that there are people who are seeking protection, who need as much support, and we promote solidarity than help. Because solidarity, there's this quote that I love so much by an Australian. It says, "If you come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if your being here is because your struggle is entangled with mine, then we can sit down and talk." That's about solidarity. That is what people need to understand. People tend to want to go and think for the people who are affected by a situation and think this is the problem that they can solve without getting people. Let's talk about the issue and ask, what can we do together to make your situation better? Instead of you saying that, okay, for you, this is what I'll do this for you, and then I go away. So there's no solidarity there.
Yeah, it's like a ship in the night. It just comes and goes. We've had 50 years of that in Ballymun, and we've kind of called it out in the last couple of years, going, no. If your issue isn't tangled up in my issue, well, then we can't work together, because otherwise you're just, I'm the help and you're the helper.
Yeah,
and that dynamic is not healthy for any of us. And one of the ways I witnessed that, because you volunteer in MASI and you connect people who are in centres that are separated all over the country. But you had a Zoom meeting the other night. There's 150 people who are in the direct provision. And you're doing very simple stuff like if you want to do some CV training, or if you need any help with your documentation, or if you need to, whatever it is, A, B, C, and D, say it here. If you're doing a podcast, say it here.
Yeah.
If you want to communicate with somebody, say it here. And from that, I think 2 days later, I done a radio interview with a community radio in Galway, and I had a similar conversation that we're having today with a young black woman on community radio. And I think she was saying, "Dean, what do we do? How can we, build solidarity?" And I said, "This is how we do it. We just talk, we communicate. You come onto my podcast and you talk. I'll go onto your radio station and we'll talk, and we'll help each other figure this out together."
Sure.
So look, just one question, you don't have to answer it. How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm above 50.
50, right. And you're 10 years in Ireland. You've got to know a lot of Irish people in them 10 years.
Yeah.
You're experienced at what you do, basically, and you're great to communicate and make peace and bring good out of situations.
Yeah.
Which is good. So you know how to talk to people, which is obviously good also.
I've been doing it for 10 years, that's right.
Brilliant, that's good. So basically the reason I'm asking that is it's coming from an experienced man, you know what I mean? You're always willing to make peace, and be understanding,
To me,
which is a good way
it's
to
all
be.
about peace. Without peace, there's nothing you can solve. And it's all about the love to see somebody else progress. You see, if you have a passion to see others progress, life is about making sure that the next person can cross that bridge that you have crossed. If you don't have that, stay away from community.
Yeah, I was just about to say, people will just say, look, I have my own family to worry about. I'm going to just do my family. But what you're saying is, beyond yourself, beyond your family, there's this other thing, and it's called community. And it can be amazing if you just take the courage to step into it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's how I got to know Martin. That's why we do a podcast.
Yeah.
Because the two of us took a step towards each other rather than a step away. The two of us put our hands out to each other rather than putting our hands up to each other. I think probably a year ago, we stood and done something similar to what you done in Cork. We done a human rights picket together. And we stood in solidarity as brothers with other people in this community for the rights, the basic human rights of the travelling people. And we took it to where the power was. We took it to Dublin City Council's new super depot in Ballymun, which we've talked on this podcast 15 times about.
Yeah, numerous times.
But we stood together. We stood together. And that's community. That's solidarity. That's unity. That's love. And that's courageous. And Martin had to learn some very kind of big lessons that his community has let almost people in power pour honey in their ears for the last 20, 30, 40 years and gone into a room, shouted at everybody and then walked out feeling that they had won, but they actually had probably walked out with less.
Yeah.
So there's lovely lessons that I think that we're all learning. You're 50, I'm almost 50, Martin's 50. There's 3 men in this room that can bring an awful lot of experience and wisdom, I think, to our nation, to our country, to Ireland. Black, white, gay, straight, it doesn't really matter. I'm really, really excited about where we're going in the next 50 years in this country.
Yeah, it's all about the attitude. You know, just a quick example. I had my refugee status or residency in 2016 already. Okay? I would have thrown the towel to people and carry on with my private life and everything else. This is what I always say to people who are new, that who are joining us new. I said, I'm already sorted papers-wise, and I'm here because of the love of the people, because of the sufferings that I know people are going through and will go through. And I'm just throwing a rope to you to say, come with me. Let's move to where I am. When you get your papers, then you can do whatever that you do. Like, I mean, I don't know if in our call where you were, when you attended, we always recognize people that have passed, you know, their residency, that have been given the right to stay here. We always give credit to those that have their papers, to encourage the others, to say, stay put, stay in the...
It's like in AA where they say, okay, we're having a celebration today. Who's been in AA 10 years? And everyone goes, yeah. And we say, okay, the path is there. People have done it. You can do it.
Yeah.
If you're only here for one day or 1 year or 20 years, continue on.
That's
Continue
right.
on. And you mentioned earlier on that you had met me for the first time over here in Ballymun. That's not true, because you showed me solidarity when you came into Apollo House 6 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So 6 years ago, when you got your residency, when you became an Irishman. Can I call you an Irishman?
Yeah, you can.
When you became an Irishman, you stood in solidarity. You had already got your papers. You could have said, fuck this, I'm going off now to be, you know...
And I said...
A citizen and not bother with all this community stuff.
When I got my papers, my friend said, now our problems are your problems too. And I said, yeah, exactly. Irish problems are my problems. Irish success is my success too. I'm here to make a change. I'm here to make a difference.
You're an Irishman. And Martin
So you're an
Stokes...
official Irish citizen then, yeah?
No, not yet a citizen, but it's that process is going. I have applied for citizenship, so I have decided to become full naturalized Irish person.
Well, because of who I am in Ireland, I'm going to make you an honorary Irishman. And that traveller man over there, he's an Irishman too.
Yeah, that
We're
would
all
be great. You can all endorse my application with the minister. So please give that guy.
Oh my God.
So I'm excited about what we can do together, because John Connor said to me a few weeks ago when he was on the podcast, he says, imagine what Ireland is going to be like when travellers and working class people work together. Well, imagine what Ireland's going to be like when travellers and working class people and people in direct provision are working together. Oh, that's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
It is beautiful, because I can feel it in this room today.
Yeah, it's going to happen. We've got to believe it, and we're going to work
We're doing
towards
it. We're doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We have great memories and great imagination, but what we forget is we're right here, right now. Let's just do it. And we are doing it.
Yeah.
We are doing it. The way this happens is we turned up here today. That's how it happens.
That's right.
So basically, the countryman is lucky to be here with me and you, Lucky, yeah?
Very good, Martin. Very good. Martin, thank you for that poem. It was stunning. And I know people are going to be coming back with comments on this show Some of them full of love and some of them full of fear, some of them full of ignorance. But nobody can deny that poem that he rang out. And just listen to the words of it. We are one.
Yeah.
We are one.
You are one. Big time. I love that.
Episode 32.
Anyway, Lucky, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys.
God bless.
A traveller and a countryman. And Lucky Khambule.
Yeah.
Lucky Khambule from South Africa. Now an honorary Irishman. Yuppa!
So that's us for this episode, a Traveller and a Countryman podcast. If you like it, let us know, share it around, and we'll see you on the road.